Mic's up. We're recording. Yes. Cool. All right. Welcome back to episode 2 of the tactical podcast, or leadership under the table. Whichever one sticks, I guess. Last time we talked about platoon level leadership, 16, 17, 18, 19. Tonight, I should say, we're talking about middle leadership, or the squad leading role on a platoon scale, and why those things are important to platoon scale management. I know you guys have said who you are in the first episode, but let's go ahead and do it again. Lightning, let's start with you.
I can do that. I'm First Lieutenant Lightning. Contrary to the name, I have no affiliation with the military, just a milsimmer who's been researching strategy and tactics for, I don't know, about 7 to 8 years, and just have a real fondness for the space.
I'm Cactus with 5 tourniquets, and also have no military training to speak of, but I've been just playing Bellum obsessively and learning as much as I can on how it works for the last few months.
I'm Chef, also civilian, no affiliation with the military aside from the books I have on my shelf, and a unhealthy obsession with strategy and tactics. Um, yeah, really kind of it. So, we can draw straws to use kicking off the first point here.
I can do it. Cool. So the first one I had when it comes down to like how SLs are essential to help out platoon leadership is responsibility. SLs help platoon leadership because they have the ability to be highly responsible for the objective that they've been given. This is really important because obviously a PL will make a big plan that involves the entirety of the platoon. Well, obviously he can't be there to micromanage how each squad does things. So having each squad leader be responsible for their little section of the plan is really important because now the platoon lead doesn't need to micromanage all of his SLs and micromanage how the plan's going. It allows them more freedom because they're responsible for their own objectives.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's a good one. Yeah.
Right. Each level of leadership, takes takes something off the plate for the people above, right?
Mm.
So to speak. So you're taking that responsibility and freeing them up to look at the bigger picture. And it works the same for FTLs for squad leaders, right? It's such a relief when you have a subordinate that can take care of business, right? for
Mhm.
And you don't have to be uh, babysitting everybody.
Yeah, that's also a fair point. Because you know a lot of people see the 38 or whatever, however many people is going to be in the platoon at the time of release once everything's in, and they'll get overwhelmed, right? And the big thing is that like the PL isn't in charge of 50 people, right? He's in charge of 8 squad leaders, or right now it's technically 5 with the recce team, but the squad leaders aren't technically in charge of their 9 or 12-man group. They're in charge of 2 to 4 fire team leaders. So breaking up the amount of people that you're in direct contact with definitely helps take pressure off of not only your lower leadership but your higher leadership as well. So that's a good point. Um, the first one I have is understanding the medium picture. The higher leadership here is the big picture, the overall match. But the SL is, one level in. They don't necessarily have to worry about the overall gunfight. And if SLs are having to start to like look at the entire match or the entire gunfight between every other SL, then higher leadership isn't doing their job right. Um, but understanding, where the squads are at, not necessarily to be able to move wherever they need to, which they should. Um, but they shouldn't have to worry about the overall picture. Which, as somebody who plays higher leadership a lot, when I play an SL, it's always in the back of my head because like once you understand how the overall match works, it's really hard to let go of that control. um,
Yeah.
it's just like the executive chef running the window of a line during service. Like they don't want to give up control of, how the plates are going out, or God forbid they lose track of what tickets are hanging at what time. Like it's a juggling act. So they don't want us to like have somebody fuck that up. But at the same time, you got to trust the team that you're working with, whether you know them or not.
Yeah. It's a good point. And I think applies also to your fellow squad leaders, right? Like you rely on um, as a squad leader, you rely on the platoon command to handle that big picture. And also like your other squad leaders have to have your back, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, if if 1-3 is holding my right flank, then I don't have to think about that anymore, right? I just trust, okay, 1-3's got me there, and I can focus on, my role, whatever that is, addressing contact on the other side or whatever I need to make happen. Uh, yeah, and so you're ideally right. You can really focus in on your particular task, um, and then just reach out when you need help or when you can't be effective.
And I think a
And
lot of
then
people,
everybody else will
sorry to
help you
cut you
out,
off.
right? Hopefully.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And
No,
I
I'm done.
in an ideal world, uh, we wouldn't have to like doubt if our fellow SLs are going to be there to bail us out if we need it, right? But that's kind of the sometimes the mixed bag you get with public matches. It's a good and a bad thing, but uh quality of matches, I don't want to get into quality of matches and quality of life because that would be a whole nother, oh my god, I could talk for hours about that too. But
Yeah.
um understand
Yeah.
having
But
SLs that understand what's going on to the left and to the right of them is just as important as the SL being aware of where their fire teams are.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it really you don't understand the importance of having you really need to trust your SL whether you kind of want to or not
Mm-hmm.
because it's just too much information for you to be dealing with. Especially in a especially in a setting or requirement that might be something like Vellum, where everything is happening in real time. There's no pause button, there's no wait. You can't sit on this for an hour or two thinking what the best option is. Something I feel, or at least to kind of show what happens when you don't have an SL in order to help make those objectives. I'm a really big fan of the combat mission series, so I love
Oh
those
yeah.
games. And the thing is that whenever you're planning it, it's very easy to have at least a company size element you're trying to use because it's all, they use these little pixel treppen, as we like to call them. But you're using it all, and you realize that when you're commanding from such a large element, even from the platoon scale, it's not too difficult to manage it. But you start to realize, especially when it builds up, how much you wish you didn't have to you already know like platoon alpha is going this way and platoon bravo is going to go this way and what you need them to do. But without having proper platoon leads and without having proper SLs, it makes it kind of miserable and really time consuming because you're having to individually plant out and place where you want them to go, how you want them to react, what you want them to do. Where something like for Bellum or something like that, you can have an SL and give that objective to them. You don't have to worry about where they're going to go. You have to worry about how they're going to do it because hopefully at that point you've given them your intent, your commander's intent, and then they will just work with that. You know that it's being worked on in the way you need it to be, and you don't need to worry about micromanaging movements and actions and all this other stuff because that's what they're already trying to do. The SL's on top of that, which helps a lot because that's stuff that even for like me when I play combat mission, just having a platoon and like controlling a platoon element trying to move, it can easily for one movement can take me like 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes to plan a decent movement. Where when you have actual SLs that know what they're doing, all of that stuff happens within just a couple of minutes or seconds, even, especially if they're that good.
Yeah, being able to the culinary world or the hospitality world calls it on the fly. Doing things on the fly is like stopping whatever you're doing at that current time to make sure that something else happens faster. Um, and having SLs that can do things on the fly and are able to compartmentalize their orders, the order of work, or like the important not the importance but the urgency versus important tasks, right? Urgent and important task is the same thing as time and task, right? They're moving in opposite directions, and you have to be able to discern very quickly between what needs to be handled right now and what can be like pushed off for 5 or 10 minutes.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's big, and it's big skill as a squad leader because when you're first starting out, at least when I was first starting out, uh, everything seems urgent, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's combat. Like you're as soon as you take contact and bullets start flying, like you would think, well, surely there's no choices. Like uh there's no way you can put something off, right? But you'd be surprised as you get more experience and you learn, the flow of a gunfight. Like there is actually a lot of space in there for
Yeah.
judgment, for movement, for deciding things. And it's yes, I mean you have to prioritize, right? That's in fact that's like almost the number one skill is like not getting overwhelmed and just like processing, okay, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen. What is the most urgent, right? It's like, okay, first I need to shoot this guy that's walking up on me. Then I need to tell Bravo to break contact, right? And then I need to read the fight and figure out, okay, is Alpha recoverable or whatever. So there's like, you can't do everything at once, right? So you really do need to you build up that muscle of processing all that information and then prioritizing it like almost automatically. Um, and it is it's chaos at first, but you learn to read what's actually important in the chaos, right? And
Hmm.
sift it out.
It's interesting you say that, right? Because my first month in Bellum was a very different experience than what it is now. Um, and
Mhm.
I had the same thing going on that you did as an SL, and especially as a platoon leader when I was starting that whole spiel. Oh my god, I was so stressed out like the entire time, dude. Holy shit! But I kind of missed that because your first couple of gunfights in Bellum are like SNS response to the roof. You're actually like I've been sweating playing this
Oh yeah.
game, like I remember like feeling my blood pressure like in my neck. And it's definitely it still happens from time to time, but
Yeah.
being able to, and that's kind of in my next point here, and you kind of mentioned it of reading the gunfight. Um, it's very easy to get overwhelmed at first, but once you understand like how to read a gunfight, um, it will change your squad leading game immensely for the better, right? And that takes time because you have to learn what factions are using what weapons, what those weapons sound like. Um, you have to be able to orient direction based only on sound. And the further away they are, the harder it is because you're not hearing the report of the rifle or the MG or whatever um like as clearly. Or if you get ambushed, you're not going to hear shit. You're not going to hear what direction it's coming from, how many there are. Like it's just
Yeah.
craziness, which is the fun of the game, right? Like that's part of the reason why we play it, aside from uh working the folds of our brain.
Yeah.
But the more you play as an SL, the easier it is to read what's going on, right? And and the way I like try to like tell people is that if there's more snaps coming in than there's pops going out, you're probably not in a good spot, right? You can tell when you're suppressed. You can tell when you don't have fire superiority, or you're in that like quick balancing act of trying to get fire superiority, which is always fun too, because like you absolutely can't hear anything because everybody's just mag dumping. You're getting mag dumped on, and like people are losing their shit. It's great. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Oh my
I
gosh.
used to roll my eyes at it because one of the big buzz phrases of the early 2010s was the lull in the gunfight. And I hated that phrase because like every that was right when like all the SF dudes were getting into the whole like civilian firearms like industry. I don't know if you got either of you guys keep up with that or not, or did at some point, but uh, you'd have all these like army dudes or SF guys like teaching civilians how to do defensive fighting, and they're always going to say, "Oh, well, reload in the lull in the gunfight, move in the lull of the gunfight." It's like, bro, you're taking squad and platoon level tactics and trying to shove that into a civilian that's only taking a course to defend himself or somebody he cares about. Like they're not gonna they don't have that stress inoculation of understanding what that means, right? You can tell somebody that all day, but like if they've never like heard the gunfire die down and it get a little quieter, that like, oh, that's what he's talking about. That's a lull in the gunfight. Um,
They're also like by themselves. Also, it's like
right.
one guy's trying to defend
Yeah.
his kids who aren't shooting back at the intruders either. So it's like one guy who has no other support. It's just him. They're lulling the gunfight. For all we know, it might just be the other guys just stop shooting
Stop
for a
shooting.
second.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean he's reloading. Doesn't mean there's a lull. It just means he's waiting. Like
I just found that interesting that like back then, like you'd have all those buzzwords and phrases and stuff, and it's like, it's interesting that like now that I'm playing Bellum, I experienced it a little bit in Arma, but Arma's really finicky with how the gunfights sound. You can't really go off of sound alone with Arma because it's janky as fuck. But Bellum is really the first game that I played where like you can kind of decipher what's going on just by the sounds around you alone, which is a really cool thing.
yeah, I remember one of my first. This was when I was still doing. It was the TWS training pipeline, second level for it. And I already mentioned this once before in a different one, and in one of our other podcasts previously, was the fact that I remember we were going in, and I know my squad leader was taking his time to make sure each fire team got set up in the correct position. But you could hear when that firefight was breaking out by school, and you could hear it, and it just you could hear that lull. At that time where it's legitimately good to move because you can tell one side is winning the firefight, one side is suppressed. That there's time for us to move. We should be moving a little quicker. We weren't. We were just going kind of slow, but you when you get around it enough, you hear enough firefights, technically, whether it's in real life or in game, you start to hear when people stop to reload, when a group is suppressed, when there's actually time to move. And that's where it's also important for your SLs to come in. Because on the platoon leader side, you may see it, you may be able to hear it, that there's that lull in that fight and everything. But commonly as a platoon leader, you're dealing with so much, you don't have time to take advantage of it. So that's where you really have to rely on your SLs because they are going to be the ones really trying to make those breakthroughs, really trying to apply the pressure to the enemy there. And so you have to be able to trust them with that level of responsibility you've given them to be able to take advantage of those situations and use that knowledge that hopefully they also have of being able to take advantage of that lull in the firefight.
Hmm. And that's also your moment to stabilize yourself, you know,
True.
or pull back if needed. So
Because you might also be
that's a whole
suppressed.
other that's a whole other question of like, you know, figuring out, are you are you winning or are you losing, right? Or is it like stalemate?
Yeah, it's taking a look at that middle view, that medium picture, like Chef said, because platoon
Yeah.
lead's got that bigger picture. They can see everything that's moving, but you struggle to see as a platoon lead that medium picture. Like how many
Yep.
guys are down in each squad? Can they move? Should they reconstitute now that there's a lull, or should they try attacking?
Yep.
Real important stuff.
I've noticed that like default aggression uh is not a thing really in a lot of public matches. Like the second
Mhm.
SLs will get like overwhelmed, they'll just kind of like shut down, which is, you know, you guys touched on it, stress inoculation, right? Um
Mhm.
it's just being able to work through the SNS response faster than the guy that is trying to wipe your squad, right? Like if you really want to get down to it, like it's how fast can I reset my OODA loop and take out the guy that is still stuck in his. Um, but
Yeah.
I've noticed, right, because like I've been playing some more SL matches this week to like refine my understanding. Um, but if I hear that there's a lull in the fight, I'll either break contact right away and try to pull like, oh dude, like I'll intentionally break contact off of a terrain feature and set up like a hasty reverse slope defense just to pull the enemy to where we were and just 86 them all off the hill while they're looking for us.
Mhm.
And that's a tactics thing. But um being able to understand like what's going on where is part of what gives that like ability. And default aggressive isn't always pushing that hill, right? Like a lot of times it is. And I'll just send my squads out. I'll say, hey, like Bravo, like suppress the fuck out of this hill. Alpha, we're moving now. Um, and the other squads would be like, What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, why are you doing that?" And I'm like, "Because we're not getting shot at. We have fire superiority. They're not shooting at all. It's silence. So the only thing going out is our pops. Like, there's no snaps coming in. This is the time. Push that shit. Because if we don't, then they're just gonna maneuver on us. And it's like, no, we got all the time
Yeah.
in the world. And it's like, no, you do, but you don't.
That's the thing. Yeah. I uh something I want to emphasize to all squad leaders, all players really, but especially squad leaders, is there really is no sitting still, right? If you're even if let's say you have fire superiority, the enemy suppressed, right? So you don't feel like you can push, right? But you don't want to break contact because you're not getting shot. Oh, great. Okay, we'll just hold, right? And it's a stalemate. But if you're not moving, you're waiting for death because I guarantee you there's another squad that now knows exactly where you are and they are maneuvering on you, right? And they're going to come from an angle you didn't expect, right? So you need to, almost always there's very few exceptions, but almost always you want to be you're either pushing the enemy or you're pulling back, right? And pulling back doesn't necessarily, like you point out, doesn't necessarily mean you're giving up or retreating even, right? It's just you're maneuvering for that better position so that you can set up the conditions to kill the enemy. Either you're pulling them to you or getting better ground, getting better cover, whatever the case may be, or ideally working with the platoon to help finish those guys off. Um, but yeah, if you are sitting still, you're waiting for death, right? You're just it's coming for you. So you either go out there to finish them off and then get out before the counterattack, or you pull back now. Um, yeah, the risk, the longer you sit in one spot, the higher the risk that you're going to get overwhelmed.
Yeah, and even at one point for me, I was one of those guys that were like, "Oh, the firefights died down. We can just like sit here and relax and be comfortable for a minute because the firefight it's died down. We've won the firefight. We don't need to worry about the enemy right now." But that they're just taking the same time that you would do if you got beaten back from a firefight. You're reconsolidating, you're getting ammunition, you're getting your guys back up, you're getting ready to assault again or assault from a different position that will give you more of an advantage. So while you sit there thinking, "Oh, it's okay to be nice and comfortable right now," you're not. You're actually giving the enemy an advantage
Yeah,
against you because they get to make that next decision that you have to react to. So as a
right.
squad leader, you need to be able to see when that's happening. And when you've won the firefight, whenever you win a firefight, it's almost never time to just sit still and do nothing. You need to break contact or hit them because this is the turning point in the battle when the fire dies down. This is your
Yeah,
chance to run or to finally like finish the enemy.
yeah,
Now, I mean, there's a
yeah,
time and a place for sitting still in a gunfight, right?
yeah,
But
True.
that's more
right.
support by fire or blocking positions than really other things.
Yes.
I'm sure
And
I'm
if
missing some words there, but
yeah, and like I said, if there are some exceptions. Sometimes it is the right call just to, if you've got a strong position, you just want to hold it and make them go do. But just know that the enemy is not sitting still.
right.
Um, even if you've suppressed some of them, maybe you've suppressed a fire team or a squad or whatever. There's always more enemies, and they're the enemy's friends are probably coming for you, right? so
Yeah.
so just anticipate that, right? It's like you're going to be if you're in one spot and you're shooting, the enemy's not stupid, right? They know where you are and they're going to send some explosives your way just as soon as they can.
It's like the phrase in Tarkov, right? That there's always another guy. Um,
Yeah,
Oh
he's
yeah.
always got a buddy. It's the same thing in Bellum, but it there's always another fire team. Um, and if you're really unlucky, you're gonna get hit 2 squads on 1 or 3 squads on 1. Um,
yeah,
but keep that in your mind is that like where would I be sending, my fellow SL to help me out? What route would he take? Where can so where would I be if I was the enemy, in attacking someone in the position I'm in now, which is like a really loaded question.
exactly.
But being
Yeah,
able to make and that's part of what we talk about with educated assumptions, right? is that a lot of those answers to those assumptions come from asking that question of like, where would I be if I'm gonna outflank myself right now, or what's the best position of advantage?
Yeah. To me, that is the central thing you're fighting for, right? In a gunfight, and to some extent on the platoon level as well, but especially on the squad level, is like, what are we fighting for here, right? And I mean, you're trying to, obviously you want to kill the enemy, you want to accomplish the objective to win the game, but what you're in order to do that, right? You're the best. The first prerequisite to get there is you have to have a good position to fight from, right? That's going to set up the conditions for you to kill the enemy and achieve the objective. And like, what is a good position is, I feel, you know, like I'm sure there's been whole books written, whole manuals and books written on like, how do you find a good position and use it, right? So like, obviously high ground, cover, um, defilade, reverse slope, etc. These are all the good things to be considering and looking for. Um, but sometimes it's like, oh, the angle that the enemy is not expecting you to come from, right? Is also a good position. And this is like, even during a firefight, like when you're pushing up, your push is going to be effective because you are in a better position, right? Or the enemy is in a worse position. Um, and so that's why you are like, why do you suppress somebody, right? Because it it makes it so they can't take advantage of their position, right? It locks them down so that you can get around their cover, right? And so you this is why movement is usually the right answer, because there's always a better position you could be in, right? Some better condition you could be in order to actually kill the enemy or hold off the enemy, whatever the case may be. So you're rarely in the perfect spot, right? So um, yeah, try to always be improving. Like, oh, we could get over there, or we could come from this direction, or oh, this was a good spot until the enemy found a better spot or a better angle, and now we need to move again, right? Um, that's really, I feel like, a really central. It's almost like what the whole game is about, right? At least on the you know other than individual skill of like clicking on heads. Um, like you I mean, wouldn't you rather, instead of having to have a reflexes duel with a guy, wouldn't you rather just walk up behind him and shoot him in the head, right? And that's what you're fighting for, is that better chance so that you can kill the enemy.
I think another, just to kind of piggyback off of that, I think another really good skill, and I don't have it written down, but um, being able to fight effectively from disadvantageous positions,
Mm,
right? I think that's like a separate like skill set that I'm starting to finally build as a tactician or strategist or whatever, right? And that only comes from being caught, getting your shit kicked in too many times. Because we can talk about, yeah, I mean, setting conditions, right? Yeah, of course. Like I can sit here and see that this hilltop with a bunch of trees and rocks and stuff, like, okay, that's a good position. But if I get if I take fire on my way to that position from somewhere else, how am I gonna react to that problem, or how am I gonna solve that problem? Because you know I could have set everything right, fire team holding security, one pushes across, set, pull, doing all the things. And still be in a really bad spot. So I think that a skill that SLs should learn, and this just comes from getting squad wiped or going down 5 minutes into the match or whatever, is just being able to either flip that default aggression switch or break contact, and that's going to be one of the two like main things for Bellum, I think, at least right now in the state of the game. When they add mortars and fucking vehicles, and it's going to change a lot of that. But being able to discern from a bad spot, like how to handle, getting your stuff kicked in, is a pretty important thing to learn how to do.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, the other thing is any position is going to have a weakness, right? It's going to have pros and cons for the most part. um, like even the strongest strong point that you can find, right, is that's great and all, but now you're stationary, right? Like if you're holding down the school, well, now the enemy knows that you're holding down the school, and they will you know, show you to pieces, especially once mortars comes in. Like you said, that's going to be a freaking game changer. Um, and so, or like high ground, right? Well, now you got to worry about skylining and getting picked off from distance. It's like it's great, if anybody tries to run up to you, but they don't have to run up to you if you're out in the open, right? So, uh, yeah. So anyway, it's yeah, being aware of the weaknesses, and like it's fine as long as you're aware of it, and hopefully you're working with a platoon to cover that, right? Yeah.
Lightning, you've been a little quiet the last like 10 minutes. You good?
Yeah. Yeah, I am. No, I was just letting you guys talk a little bit. One
Uh,
there is something though
yeah.
I do want to put in that's really useful on the SL portion is commonly whenever we talk about how it might help platoon leadership, we think about how, like SLs are the eyes of the platoon lead, they can work on that objective by itself. But I think another great thing about having any type of good SLs is the ability to work together effectively. Because, like, if a problem arises really quickly, there is a way that, okay, the enemy's making a renewed assault or a probe or something from this area, like let's say from the north. Well, you have maybe 1-1 and 1-2 are both kind of over there. If 1-1's taking the brunt of the assault, if you send all that information up to the platoon lead, he then has to take a look at the full picture, then be like, what should I do? Take a look around at nearby assets, say, okay, 1-2's here. How about we try splitting off 1-2 to go help out 1-1? And then that goes through an approval process from the platoon lead to be like, yep, that's good. Talk to 1-2. 1-2 says it's okay to the platoon lead. And now the platoon lead gets 1-1 and 1-2 in contact so that 1-2 can come help out 1-1 and 1-1's dead. That's the nice thing about having two SLs that'll be able to work together really easily is the second something like that happens, if 1-2 can assist, 1-1 can just talk to 1-2 immediately. It doesn't need to go through, especially if they're still following commander's intent. They can still just talk to each other. Immediate contact to another assisting force. They can say, 1-2, can you assist us? We're being hit really hard. And 1-2 be like, yeah, we can come assist. 1-2 can come over, fix it, and then they can go back to trying to do whatever they were originally trying to do, or change the plan based on the fact there was an attack from the north. That's another great thing with all these SLs is that they have the ability to move around and communicate with each other directly, which takes another load off of the platoon leader's shoulders. He doesn't need to worry about getting everyone in contact and getting immediate approval and giving his approval to everyone's individual actions. It just, if it's within the scope of the commander's intent, the SLs are perfectly fine to do whatever they want, and they can talk to each other for all they want. They could never talk to the platoon lead on strategic decisions as long as they're still following what the platoon leader gave them.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I said in the platoon episode that the one big function of the platoon leader is just to keep the squad leaders talking, right? And
Yeah,
that goes also for squad leaders. Like if nobody's talking, you should be talking, right? You should be both pushing information about your squad and then pulling information about other squads to get that coordination going. Because the more the beautiful thing is everybody's listening in on platoon net, hopefully, right? Unless they've got a
true.
240 going off in their ear and they can't hear shit. But uh, for the most part, when you're making a call out on platoon net, like 1-1 talks to 1-2. Okay, 1-3 is also tracking that now, right? And so um, they might be thinking, oh, okay, now I have a clue what to expect, right? It's like, oh, that engagement might not go so well. Then I can be there to back them up, or you know, oh, that might not go so well. I need to get back to guarding the objective or uh, whatever the case may be. But then you're helping everybody build that complete picture of the battle space and increase the situational awareness, right, is the big thing. So yeah, as an SL, like you say, don't keep it to yourself. Like if you've got situational awareness of something, let people know, and uh then you can all coordinate together, even whether there's a platoon lead or not, right?
Yeah, and I would even encourage that for any person on any level. I know that plenty of times. I'm
Yes.
I'm sure even most of us will be playing a game where like, I don't know if I should speak my mind because you might get nervous that someone will tell you it's a dumb idea or you'll get yelled at or something. If you have any type of decent leadership above you, you should voice what you see and a decent opinion, if you do have one, on what you think should happen or anything. There's nothing wrong with voicing an opinion. At the end of the day, it is just an opinion. It's not set in stone. Oh, this is what we have to do. It's an opinion.
Yeah.
It'll be taken up for consideration. However, if you don't voice that, there's a good chance your fire team leader, your squad leader, your platoon leader, any of those guys won't see what you're seeing. If you saw one enemy moving through the brush off to your east, and that's the only guy you saw, if you're like, well, it's only one dude, maybe it's just a Rambo, I'm sure it'll be fine. I don't need to tell my fire team leader or squad leader or anything. When in reality, it was two squads, which is like half the platoon. One guy slipped up on their movement and revealed himself to you. Now, that whole thing is going to go completely under the radar until people or someone who's willing to talk about it actually sees them moving, which at that time might be too late. There's nothing wrong with saying, I think we're going too slow. I think we're going too fast. I think I saw someone over there. It's better to at least voice something and to make sure of it than to just leave it. Because if you just leave it, it's the same way my mom always says, like, never lie. Because whenever you lie, that's the most upsetting thing to me. We can't fix the problem. Now, obviously, if you don't say anything in this case, you're not lying. But again, there's a problem that might be there and it can't be fixed unless it's talked about. So if you don't say anything, you possibly can just leave a problem sitting. And so, as any person at all, it is good to talk about this, whether it's you're talking with your platoon lead, your squad lead, your fire team lead, just talk to someone who can check it out or do something.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
And that yeah, being
Good
like
life advice as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
Yes.
And
absolutely.
but even more so in Bellum because like the stakes are low ultimately, right? Like what
True.
the worst that's going to happen is you're going to annoy a few people for the next hour, right?
Uh-huh.
So big deal. Yeah, better to just speak up, get people talking. It,
Yeah, because if you
if
don't say
anybody if
anything,
anybody's like berating you or arguing back or whatever, well, at least they're talking, right? So
yeah, that's true.
that's better than silence.
Got some
Um,
communication.
and also like that's a them problem,
Yeah.
right? If you're just engaging in good faith and trying to build a situational awareness of the team and help get people coordinated on solving the problems together, then you're in the right.
And if you just let that sit and like you see a problem or something and you just let it sit, it's not anyone else's fault other than your own. You saw a problem and you didn't do anything to try to fix it. even if it's just talking about it, you just let it sit there, and it won't be your SL or platoon leader's fault for not dealing with the problem. You're the one that didn't even mention it.
Yeah, it's always better to be safe than sorry, right? And it's even if you think that that one guy is just a dude, you guys said it perfectly. You know, is that that one guy was just the one person that ended up skylining of the entire squad that was moving. But you know, ask the going hand in hand with that is asking for help before it becomes a problem, right? And it still happens, and it will continue to happen. You know, is that squads will get into contact, and because they're not keeping spacing of fire teams, or they're not like you know, bounding Overwatch or whatever, you know, the second they get into contact, they take more casualties than they should. For the scale of that contact, right? If it's squad on squad, you should not have your entire fire team go down in the first 10 seconds, right? Um,
Mhm.
and that goes into, you know, reading terrain and, you know, following. I lightheartedly call it the fuck acronym. You know, find cover, unleash a mag, communicate, keep situational awareness. Um, and part of that is that, like, if I get overwhelmed or one of my fire teams goes down, I can't just keep screaming all over platoon net like, oh, we're mass cas, send help. It's like, well, that's going to take time, you know, like, and that goes down to that level of autonomy within SLs. Is you have to be able to manage your own fuck up to an extent,
Mhm.
right? You have to be able to manage you not keeping track of what's going on around you or whatever. But speaking up and asking for help is just as important as, you know, it's finding that line between knowing that you can handle this on your own and seeing that you're going to need help. But the problem is that most people make that realization of help too late.
Mhm.
And what's the worst that's going to
Yeah.
happen? You call for the assistance of another squad, and you know nothing happens. You know, you end up steamrolling the contact that you got your shit kicked in for. Uh, you know, that's not a bad thing. You know, you gave other players something to do. You know, think of it that way.
And if anything, you might have just opened a hole there, and now there's 2 squads there to exploit it instead of
Yeah,
just 1.
exactly.
It's
Yep.
just more men inside of an advantageous position, which is another good thing. I've seen this happen plenty of times before, where like one squad will be getting a beating, and they only mention something like, "Oh yeah, 1-1's mask has. How many of you guys are up? 2." Like when you can, most SLs, I would say most people, including most SLs, can see when there's a downfall of the firefight, when
Yeah,
it's not working out anymore. And right there, you have to make a decision to either call for help or break contact. Those are the only 2 ways you'll save a majority of your squad. Because if not, you're sitting there in a losing fight, and then you'll be exactly like I just said. There'll be 2 of you guys alive. It'll be like a
Yeah.
fire team leader and like a rifleman or a grenadier, and that'll be it. Those will be the only people up. And now, basically, when you call for support, it's not actually to help assist 1-1 with winning the fight. It's to replace 1-1 because 1-1's dead.
yeah,
And then and most commonly, because this is what happens, a different squad will rock up, we'll say 1-2. They will take 1-1's position because they're trying to pick up 1-1 and win the firefight, which is wrong because now the other SL, even when you're on the ground, as long as you're not unconscious, you can still talk. You aren't properly communicating the fact, don't be where we just were. Leave us for now and finish that firefight. Because if you come right to where we are, not only are they going to be in a position where they're probably going to lose because 1-1 just lost there, they're also going to be like, especially if you're trying to pick up men during the firefight, you're going to be down a couple of barrels, which makes the firefight even harder to
oh,
win
I hate
because
that. That's a pet
exactly.
peeve. Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
I remember I've been heard this plenty of times. I know Cactus has heard it too. Bodies attract bodies.
mm-hmm.
It just one body flies just they swarm to it. And what'll happen is that we've all seen this plenty of times. And no matter what game you play, if you can pick up a friendly, unless it's like maybe Battlefield and no one cares about you, but someone will go down, and then immediately a horde of guys start going over there to try to pick them up. And it's so many times there's no smoke, there's no covering fire, there's no keeping a barrel up. I've seen this a lot in Arma because the medical system can be a little bit more complex. You'll see 3 or 4 dudes working on one guy, which is really good for getting him up. But there's 3 or 4 dudes working on one guy, the enemy is shooting at them, and no one is covering them. That's when your higher leadership guys are supposed to realize that not even if you're like an SL, and obviously we can't control the quality that comes inside of a public match. However, what you should know as a good SL or any type of leadership is understand, especially if you don't know the person, what is the most common thing that your men will do. You should understand what your men will be doing. When you take it, that also helps take the load off of other people because you already know what they're going to do. You don't need to worry about putting them in a spot that makes life even tougher. If you know as an SL that your men are likely to just run to go pick up friendlies, don't put them in that position. Don't give them even the thought that picking up friendlies is a good idea. If 1-1 got hit from the north, so there's enemies to the north and 1-1's to the south, attack from the east or the west, or even the north. Don't go to the south. Don't stay on that south side where 1-1 is, because you know your guys will focus on picking up 1-1 more than fighting. And that leaves your men into an exposed position. If your men are trained, they'll ignore 1-1 until the firefight's done.
Right.
But again, if you're playing a pub match, you can't guarantee that. So just eliminate the risk. If you can, completely eliminate it and avoid that from happening. Because if you can avoid it from happening, there's another problem you don't even have to worry about. As any person who's ever played SL or platoon lead or even a fire team lead, having to worry about one less problem is such a relief to get off your chest.
Yeah, it is. And you saying that like finish the fight, right? Always finish the fight. It's stuck in my head. Years ago when I was taking my TCCC certification, the guy that was teaching it, was ex Green Beret, pretty chill dude, but he said something that just kind of like stuck with me, forever. And he says that the best triage is returning fire. The best thing you can do for somebody who goes down is to keep fighting, right? Because in the instance, right, and the question was, something, well, what if they get shot in the face? Well, if they get shot in the face and they somehow live, well, a lot of people do live getting shot in the head nowadays, but he said basically assume that they're dead until you check, which is kind of like a counterintuitive thing as a guy who spent a career as a Green Beret medic, right? But you have to have that mindset, because if you start worrying about like, oh my God, I got to get him up, now your focus is, now you're on that, right? You're not focusing on finishing that fight first. If you get to him and he's alive, amazing, right? Or and Bellum hasn't really implemented self-aid. It has, but not, once you pass out, right? And I think they said something about they were tweaking the medical system. I'm not gonna speak out of turn for that, but if that's why like the levels of care, right? Self-aid, buddy aid, and then higher care. With any luck, they'll be able to at least apply their own tourniquets, right? But like, dude, if I lost count how many times, both as an SL, as a 1-7, and even as a 1-6, where I was like, guys, like, he's fucked. Leave him. Like, you gotta leave him. Keep moving, please. Like, keep pushing, keep shooting. Let's keep this pressure. And everybody wants to stop and like help him out. And it's like, no, dude. Like, I understand you want to help, but you're being more of a detriment, taking more guns out of the fight, especially when we're 30 yards from a freaking village, right? Like if we're within hand grenade range of our enemy, you cannot stop. You have to keep going because you're just gonna get fucked.
Yeah, the other way to think about it is you must push past the casualties, right,
Yeah, that
in
too.
order to help them. Because the medic or whoever, nobody can work casualties when they're literally getting shot. Right?
No,
It's not
and
gonna
it
help.
doesn't.
So keep pushing, keep moving. After you've established a bubble, right, and you're holding security around the casualties, then you can start picking people up, right? And
And also,
ideally
no
just
one's.
just the medic unless otherwise instructed.
Yeah. And also, no one's going to help that down guy. If you're going to help that down guy and you get shot, no one is helping that down guy. And now also someone needs to help you. So at the end of the day, it's better to just let the one dude die. As much as that
Yeah.
sucks to say, it's better to just leave him and let him bleed out and die his horrible, gruesome death by being shot in the liver and just move on and kill the enemies because more of your guys will be left alive.
Well,
As much as it sucks to say that only like, oh man, we just had our squad get into a fight and only 4 guys are alive. Man, if only we stuck around to help the other 5. Well, if you stuck to help the other 5, there'd be no one alive. So 4 is a whole lot better than none.
well, and that yeah, and there's a reason why the exfil criteria is 39%, right? Like I
Yeah.
think that gets overlooked so much, and it's like, well, why is the number so high? Well, it's not, and you have to take that number. It's not 39% of the whole platoon. It's 39%, or let's say 40%. It's 40% of your squad. It's 40% of your fire team. If you lose 40%, you are now combat ineffective. And that's also like a time end thing. Like the more you do it, the more you're gonna understand what 40% casualties look like. But just because you got, you know, two people down in your fire team, oh yeah, I can still push this. Probably not. Uh, because that two is going to turn into three because somebody's already going to be working on those two casualties. So you're down 3 out of your 4 fire team already. So you're already down
Right.
40% as a squad. Now you got to talk about breaking contact, like, and that's just um a gameism thing, or
Mhm.
like just people not understanding uh like how to read a gunfight, and that's it's crazy how many of these like points weave into each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I like how you put it, Lightning, with the it doesn't just apply to the individual, but also at the squad level, right? It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, if a squad is down, well, they went down for a reason. So you need to, you know, put your squad in a better position and address that contact, and push past, and then maybe you can think about helping the other squad, right? Yeah. So uh let's talk about we've sort of talked about working together with other squads. Let's talk about working within the squad. So uh a big thing uh, that a squad leader does is, in my mind, is to get everybody on the same page within the squad.
Mhm.
Um, and fire team leader initiative is great. Love to have it. Um, you know, it's a huge relief as a squad leader when the fire team leads, uh, can figure out what needs to happen and get it done. But a lot of times, people have different ideas. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and really, we need everybody coordinated, right, on one task, one objective that the squad is working on. So, uh, you need to set the intent, right, and communicate that to the squad, especially the fire team leaders, and then um, get acknowledgement from them as well, right, so that you hear back, okay, they understand the the task that I'm assigning, and then you can let them loose, right? Once they once they know, once you've heard back, okay, yes, Bravo's doing this, Alpha's doing that. Copy. All right. Then you can be more hands off, right? But always got to hear that acknowledgement. Yes, chef.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've seen a lot with. I try to do this as much as I can whenever I'm a squad leader, or even as a fire team leader. I'll try to get it out of my squad leader. It's just the fact that I know lots of people on a platoon leader stuff will try to make sure that every squad leader knows the plan because that's important because they believe that the squad leaders need to understand the commander's intent and what the plan is so that they can, if they need to make an adjustment that they can so they understand it. But it's just as important to do that as a squad leader because technically speaking, this is the way I've heard it before and I really like it. No matter what size of a group you're commanding, it's exactly the same as commanding a squad. If you're commanding a company of men, a platoon of men, or a squad of men, even a fire team, it's all done the exact same way. You have certain groups of individuals with certain specialties that you can place in each area that you need. And it's just as important for those people to understand the plan going on as the people leading them. If we don't tell the people at the base of the pyramid what's going on, when the top of the pyramid starts to break and crack, they are not going to know what direction they're pointing. And so that's why, at least as a squad leader, whenever I do it, I will always tell my fire team leaders and all of the other infantrymen inside of my squad what is the current plan. The platoon lead wants to do this. Our objective is that we're going to do this. And so this is what we're going to be working on. So now that they understand what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it, they can give me their own feedback while we're going through a mission, while we're trying to complete an objective. They can give me feedback that's relevant to what we're doing because they know what we're doing. Because I know lots of people would like to write off maybe your medic or your rifleman or a grenadier as, they're not in a fire team leader or even an SL position. They're not really in that much of leadership. How much is their input really valued? But if they're a good or skilled player, they might give you information that even you yourself didn't know. So
Yep.
when you give the plan to everyone, not just leaders, they have the ability to also improvise in the exact same way a platoon leader wants his SL to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the yeah, my next point then is since we're all in agreement and I'm the best,
Absolutely.
I'll just keep rolling. Yeah, the next huge role for the SL within the squad is to also just to relay relevant information to them, right? So
Mhm.
a big one is like what's it called? I think the fancy term is deconflicting fires, right? Meaning don't shoot your friends accidentally. Um, so the squad lead should be aware. Oh, 1-3's on our right side, or whatever. 1-1's coming up from our south. Um, let the squad know. Hey, we got friendlies over there. We got friendlies coming up from this direction. Please don't shoot them. And same thing, calling out obviously to other squads like, if we are coming into an active fight, right? You need to reach out and say, hey, we're coming in from your east, right? We're going to be coming into your fields of fire, so watch out. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, and also just as the squad leaders should be building that situational awareness for the platoon, they should also be helping to fill it out for the squad, right? And for even down to the rifleman, so the rifleman knows, okay, here's what's going on. Like they're tunnel visioned usually on the one or two people, you know, that's shooting at them, and but they should be aware, like, oh, 1-3 just went down on our eastern flank. Um, so I know to expect contact from the east now, right? And that might
Mhm.
be like you say, when we're talking about priorities, that might be even more urgent than the guys in the opposite tree line, right? That we're just plinking back and forth. Um, so yeah, that's a huge one. Is like getting people on the same page, and then making sure everybody's aware, not only of the intent, but of the evolving situation, right?
Yeah, it's really important there is, especially as you mentioned at the beginning, just kind of being those eyes. You really don't realize, especially as a platoon leader, because you can be so far away from the action at times that when you're not getting good updates or constant updates from your squad leaders and everything, you don't realize how blind you are. You're like Helen Keller. You can't see anything, you can't feel anything. It's nothing going on over there. It's black. Like I mentioned in a previous podcast, that in a previous episode, whenever you're any type of layer of higher leadership, whether you're a fire team leader, squad leader, platoon leader, you're taking all of these different tunnel visions from people and creating this larger picture. But the thing is, when you don't have that person's vision, that person's tunnel, you can't connect it to the full picture. And that's something that's really important as a squad leader, is because you will probably have the best view from like the ground that any person will get. A rifleman will be fairly narrowed in on his target. The fire team leader is very narrowed in on its small objective. The squad leader will probably have the widest view and the most complete view of the battlefield, from like a ground perspective. Every other leadership above an SL is kind of like, you can technically do its job by looking at a map and talking over a radio. A squad leader, you can't do that. You can't look at a map and talk over a radio and get your fire team leaders to do whatever you need to. That's one where you have to be hands-on with, and that's about the closest level you really get. And that's just how much more important it is as an SL to relay good, solid information that can be used by your platoon leader and other squads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the middle layer of leadership, right, is it's uh it's tough because you're sort of uh in the middle of the sandwich, and you need to keep that information flowing, from the top to the bottom, and then everything that's coming from the bottom, keep it flowing up. And if that information stops flowing, the fog of war is gonna seriously mess you up.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, you don't think about it, right? When you're on a squad, and like all the information's flowing, right? People, the everybody on the squad is calling out contacts, right? And the SL is getting updates from platoon net and updates from the other squad leaders, and everybody's aware, right? Everybody's like, okay, here's our role, here's our task, here's our problems that we're working, here's what we need to look out for. Then how often have you been in that situation and like actually lost, right?
Mhm.
And just gotten wiped out? Like, sure, you might not win your individual fights, right? But then the at least the platoon is aware and coming together and taking advantage of that situation however they can, right? Even if it turns out your job was just to like draw fire and take attention, so other
Yeah.
squads could get shit done. Um, but like, it's rare that you're going to be on a team that's functioning that well and then totally lose, right? It's at least going to be a close game.
Yeah.
So that's what you should be striving for, is like really strong communication, healthy trust among the squad, of like, okay, people are able to feel free to report that information, and then you trust them to use that information, and take advantage of the situation as best as they're able, right?
Mhm.
um, it's a beautiful thing when it all works. It all comes together, right? And you're having a great match regardless of the outcome.
Yeah. Being able to link all of those teams together is really where the communication really comes in. Because if you're facing another team, let's say everyone on that team is an expert shooter, and they'll win like every match they go to, they'll win every firefight they get into. That's perfectly fine if they do. But if the game mode is anything other than attrition, if they cannot coordinate, they'll never be able to take advantage of how good their shooters are. They won't be
Yeah.
able to blow up the cache or even find it because all of them are so focused on winning firefights and
Yeah.
shooting.
Yeah. And even on attrition, right? The thing that's gonna screw you is what you don't see coming, right?
Mhm.
It's like, oh, we knew there was one squad over there. We didn't realize there was a second squad, right? And now it's a much, much tougher fight. And meanwhile, you know, you're in some long, even if you ultimately win it, like you're stuck for a long time, and the rest of the platoon is getting screwed over, right? So you really need to work together. That's what it's all about. That's the dream.
Yeah, some of the most effective militaries in the world have been ones with incredibly good coordination, and that does include logistics. Obviously, Bellum doesn't have much of a logistics bud to it. They did kind of shy away from it, as you know, as they've mentioned before. Squad heavily relies on logistics in order to win the battle. To the point, if you don't have good logistics, you can just straight up lose from that. And they wanted to have a more ground firefighty feel, but it's still true no matter if it's logistics or it's just squad communication, platoon communication, any type of communication. If you cannot communicate with the other people around you,
Yeah.
you're probably going to lose. You won't get that picture or that heads up that you need. That's the reason that we use recon, is because recon can coordinate with other groups and give them information they would have never had. And that's the importance of recon. If there's no communication with recon's just three guys crapping in bags in the woods just trying to find people. Like nothing special's
Yeah.
going on because you won't be able to use their information.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, uh, for anybody who's um, nervous about trying to be a squad leader, like it's really, don't worry if you don't know the tactics, if you don't know about, okay, fix and flank and you know, uh, fire team wedges and stuff. There's all these details about tactics, and they work. They'll definitely give you a leg up, but priority number one is just getting that communication right. It's the social aspect of the game, especially as a squad leader. It's uh that's like 90% of your your advantage in the match is going to be good comms and good setting up that intent for your squad, right?
Mhm.
um, you you know you might not have the best idea of like how to approach a problem, but if you just tell the squad like, okay, here's the problem and we need to fulfill this role, right? We're flank security, or we need to assault, or we need to defend, or whatever it is, just the basic, give them a basic idea, get them working in the same direction, and you're 90% done. And
Mhm.
then, all the details and stuff, hopefully your fire team leads will pick up the uh, all the individual tactics and stuff. But regardless, just get your squad in the best position, oriented to the right task, and you're having a good time.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine if anyone wants to try SLing or platoon leading. It you just have to be able to realize that being an SL, especially, or any other type of leadership, it's a very humbling experience. You need to be willing to be humbled, and you need to be
Yeah.
willing to try to fix you need to be willing to try to fix the problems that you have with it, because you're
Yeah,
gonna have
and there,
problems no matter how
yeah,
good or how many books you read or any of that type of stuff. You're gonna
yeah.
mess up and have problems.
It's
Well,
a chaotic situation. It's a stressful situation, but you know what? Just try to learn from your mistakes. Right? You're gonna make mistakes. Just try not to make the same mistake twice. Right?
yeah.
And then you're on the good. You gotta have that growth mindset. It's not that you're stupid, right?
Is
Or
that you
you're
used to
you're
be
you're a
stupid.
bad person. It's that, yeah. It's like, oh, I didn't know, and now I know, and now I can do better, right?
Hmm.
Well, then, and that kind of, another thing I didn't write down, but kind of is coming up naturally. I gotta say, side note, that's one of my favorite things about us doing this like podcast thing is that like I'm seeing so many different perspectives and realizing things in real time that I wouldn't have if we weren't doing this. Uh, so that's pretty cool. But you guys saying that is a really good like showcase of knowledge versus wisdom, right? Like you can have all the knowledge in the world and read all the manuals, freaking write notes in them, all sorts of shit. But if you haven't been able to implement those or test out what uh reacting to contact is or what a squad assault is or breaking contact, like if you haven't actually spent the time to like do the reps rather than just read about it, like that knowledge doesn't do a whole lot. Because
No.
I've seen, squad leaders brand new doesn't know, phrase one in our super LARPy milsim community, and they outperform the guy that's like, saying the NATO phonetic alphabet with tree instead of three. Like dude's going all
Yeah.
out and he's getting his squad wiped every time. But this kid who's like, yeah, they're somewhere in the north. I don't know. It's a whole group of dudes. Like that's his call
Across that
out.
field because I don't know
Yeah.
what an ODA is.
Yeah, like and
Yeah.
he's just crushing it because
Tactical blob.
yeah.
It really is. It really shows you how it doesn't even matter. I remember I forgot who it is. I think his name's Donkey Killer, or at least that's what I've seen him as. I love the way he always puts it. It's like I have a really good understanding, knowledge wise, of everything you need to know. But me actually doing it, I suck at it. I can't do it. And that's why they say if you can't do, teach. So
That's right.
That's right.
and that's really the big problem is that's a really big thing between knowledge and wisdom, which is just the practical application of knowledge. I know for a long time I had plenty of knowledge on what this stuff's supposed to look like. When you react to contact, you just unload your mag at the enemy and just shoot and just. But there's more to it. It's not legitimately just throw bullets down range. It's how do you throw bullets down range? It's actually throwing bullets down range because I've been susceptible to this. I know plenty other people have. When you start shooting in those react to contact problems, you maybe don't shoot that much because you can't see the enemy, or you don't shoot that much because you're trying to conserve ammo, or you just shoot rapidly, but you're shooting into the tree canopy. Like no one's hiding
Yeah.
up there unless you're in Vietnam. And
Yeah, the
there's
Pacific,
nothing
yeah.
there's nothing else going on. It's you have the knowledge to know that when you get shot at, you need to shoot in the direction of the enemy. But the thing is, sometimes we won't do it because there's a circumstance in
Yeah.
our head we haven't clicked, or you're just not doing it effectively in the right way because again you just don't know how to practically use that knowledge, and really the best way to do it is legitimately just to do it. It's the same way if you look throughout the entirety of human history, you'll see stuff like I remember for World War I they loved having glow up sights for their guns, so people painted radium, which is radioactive, onto like points on the gun to make it glow up in the middle of the night so you can see during night fighting. Now that's really great and everything, and they saw the usefulness to it. But of course, they didn't realize that it was radioactive at the time. So lots of the people who were painting this stuff on, predominantly girls, would use their mouth to pinpoint the
Yeah.
brushes to make them nice and
And now
tiny
their like
in order
teeth
to
are
paint it on
falling out.
easier. Yeah, but then they became radium girls, and their jaws and everything got jacked up because of the radiation. And that's just something that even then they still realized that was good. So they swapped to something else that wasn't radioactive that they could paint the dials to that lit up in the middle of the night. But even if you don't understand the practical knowledge of what you're doing, just literally doing it, you'll fix the problems that come along with it. I know the radium girls thing's probably an extreme circumstance to look at. However, you
Cool piece of
realize the
history though.
important. Exactly. You realize the importance of having to be able to use your sights in night fighting. We'll even just take that from a strategic point of view. Like you realize that's important. But then you might realize the way you're putting those night sights on is detrimental to you. And all you have to do is just, if you're willing to look at yourself and just check it out, you'll see what the problem is and find a way to fix it and still get the same outcome. And that's really important to try to do, especially as any type of leader, is you should be striving to get the same outcome, especially if it's working. But if you realize the way you're going about it might be detrimental to you or is, find a way to fix it. If you can find a way to fix it and get the exact same outcome, that's the way you should be going for it every single time, even if it's working and you're winning.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's a big learning process,
Mm.
and Bellum is a very chaotic uh, situation, right? It's you're rolling the dice a lot of times, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Now, don't be too hard on yourself, and in fact, don't be too easy on yourself either, right? It's like just recognize that there is a lot of luck involved, and a lot depends on you know the skill of your enemy as well. So sometimes you can do the dumbest stuff, right? The most untactical, you know, uh, just fucking blobbing out into the open, right? And it works out, and you kill the enemy, you win the match, um, and you don't realize until much later, after you try it another 5 times and you get absolutely mowed down. Oh, right. Now I'm understanding why that was dumb. Um, and by the same token, right, sometimes you can make perfect decisions with the information you have, right? You can play it tactically, freaking by the book, follow all the doctrine, do everything right, and still get wrecked. Um, and that's just the way it goes. That's real life as well, right?
Yeah.
It's not always up to you. Uh, but so you got to don't be too hard on yourself for in any one bad situation. And especially don't take it too seriously when other people criticize you of like, oh, I knew that was going to go bad, blah blah blah, and they start blaming you, and you got to let that stuff roll off your back, um, and just try to find the things that are actually repeatable, right?
Mhm.
That are going to work, 7 times out of 10, right?
Yeah,
That's good.
70% of the
Eight
time,
times out
every
of 10,
time. Yep.
exactly, right? And sometimes you try it, it doesn't work, but hey, it was it was worth a try, right? That's the important thing.
Well, and I think it was even all the way back to the TFB days. Uh Damn, I just lost my train of thought. Holy shit. Thank you,
What the heck's
ADHD. Um
TFB?
TFB was before the Warfighting Society. Um
Ah,
same dudes basically. Anyway, War said something that like really shifted my perspective. And it kind of like really sent me down the rabbit hole for leadership positions in Bellum. Was that he said to be doctrinally sound, not doctrinally bound. Um,
yep.
you
It's a
know,
great line.
and it is, and it's just like, and it lives rent free in my head along with a whole lot of other shit. Um, but that shifted my perspective in such a profound way because like I read the FM manuals. I bummed all of War's freaking like PDF files on his entire Marine Corps like career's worth of shit. Like
Yeah, he's
um
an actual instructor, right?
yeah,
Combat instructor.
yeah, so he knows what he's talking about. But like it just shifted is that like because before then, every community I've been in, or every like time I tried to do milsim before, Bellum really came about, or I found you guys with Reforger, was no, we're doing it this way and this way only. Or we're doing it based on FM blah blah point whatever the fuck. And it's like, yeah, I understand that, and this will work against Arma AI. But is it going to work in PvP? Probably not. Um,
Right.
and just him saying that and then backing it up with like, hey, going through the classes and stuff, the classes air quotes, but the trainings and learning how to cross ODAs and LDAs, the 3 or 4 different ways that he taught it, and actually really getting in, starting to build the repetition of the knowledge, really kind of expanded the knife roll, if you will. Like just
Mhm.
kept adding knives to the roll. Like, okay, cool. Like my freaking Tornell knife is now useful for 2 things instead of just making hexagon potatoes.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's doctrine is what it is for a reason, right? Um, because it is effective in the right circumstances. But you have to know how to apply it correctly. When to recognize those circumstances, and as War Daddy says, it's a framework. It's not a straitjacket. So it helps you think through a problem, and there's always more than one way to approach it, right? There's more than one correct way, right? So it's really about figuring out, okay, does it make sense, right? Do I have a way that makes sense given the information I have? Um, and then you go with that. And hey, the more options you have, the better, right? But honestly, the best teacher is going to be just getting in there, trying something, seeing how it works, after 2 or 3 tries, and then asking yourself, well, did that make sense? Right? Because then it might have seemed to make sense at the time, but then looking back, right, you realize, oh, actually, that we were vulnerable in this way, or there was a piece of information missing here, right? Or um, oh, maybe it did make sense, but we just got unlucky, right? So yeah, and then I'll do one more point that I have, sort of related to that, is a squad leader's role is to manage the morale of the squad, right? Because shit goes wrong a
Yep.
lot. You play enough Bellum, you are going to be eating dirt a lot of times, and you're going to get your squad wiped many times over, and that's okay. Um, but you know what? Even after a squad wipe, you got to keep your eyes on the prize, right? I've been watching Ted Lasso recently. I'm late to the party on that, but um, they say, okay, we can be sad. Let's be sad together. If when we had this setback, and then we're gonna have the memories of a goldfish, right? We're gonna we're gonna forget about everything that happened before and focus on the next task. So we're running back in front of the fob. All right, here's what we know. Here's the next task. Here's we can do a little mini AAR. Oh, here's what went wrong, so we can avoid that mistake in the next 10 minutes, right? When we're getting into the next gunfight here. Um, but yeah, otherwise you just gotta set it aside and get people focused, because nothing is sadder than uh, a squad that feels hopeless. It's like,
Yeah.
oh
But
man,
you,
and
you,
even just one person, like complaining and complaining and complaining will just bring the whole squad down. Um, so yeah, you as an SL, you can set the tone, and you can shift people's focus to, okay, what are we improving right now that's going to help us win the next gunfight, and then what's our next task?
you
Yeah.
can always
That's
kind of
yeah.
like I've noticed is that you can tell when either your platoon's morale or the enemy morale is low, because like everybody slows down, like to a crawl. They
Hmm.
take forever to reply or respond to stuff, or they just stop saying, all right, cool, like you told us to move west, we're gonna move west. They just kind of like sit there. Um, and that's an interesting like psychological thing too. Is you stop and you think about like even a good SL that can manage the morale and give praise and like congratulate the things that worked or maintain a positive attitude, right? A willingness to always be the hey man, like keep going, let's go. Like at a certain point, some people just give up. Um,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and I know we're talking in the confines of Bellum, but it's still interesting because like uh, y- you'll start taking return fire a lot slower than you did at the start of the match, or they may not even react to you moving your squad around. They'll see it, but they won't do anything. So it's interesting
Yeah.
to see poor morale management, um, or good morale management, and it's just like you just kept getting your shit kicked in.
Yeah, it's one thing that lots of people won't consider when it comes down to the confines of fighting. It even works inside of video games. So even more actually in video games is the element of morale. I know lots of people love to think about tactics and strategy, how this way a legitimate tactic and strategy is just making the opponent stop fighting. If you can find ways to depress them, or even if you fight someone to the point that they get so angry that they rage quit, technically speaking, you have won. If there's no enemies on the other side, there's no one left to fight. You've technically won. So there is
Nice.
a psychological element to everything that happens. And that's one thing I've said this before, not on here, but I've said it before is that whenever you give up, it doesn't matter if you were going to win, you've lost.
Yep.
It's just the fact that if you could be in a winning position, currently defeating the enemy, but if the enemy doesn't show that they're being defeated, and you start to feel like you're not winning, a numerically superior, more equipped, already winning force can give up or surrender or leave because
Yeah.
they believe that they've lost. They believe they're not going to win against this
Yeah.
force right here, even though they're holding on by a skeleton crew. They're by a thin line is the only reason that they still look like they're strong. But because it looks like they're still holding strong, like they're still doing good, they'll give up and they just get like, what are we gonna do? We're gonna lose. I remember I had this happen to me in Warno when I was playing it once. I had this line that was set up. I can't remember what map it was, and my friend kept attacking this one little corner of it. And he took that point that I was at, and I was the thinnest of line. If he actually went up the road, all he would have encountered was like one stationary AA gun that wouldn't have probably killed his tanks. Like I was right there at the end, but he gave up because he believed I still had forces there. I still had the ability to control and fight off any advance he gave. So he gave up and he stayed put right there. And then I took my forces, made a surprise attack, and completely cleared him out. It wasn't actually the fact that I was better than him that won me the battle. It was the fact he gave up before I did.
Hmm. And yeah, in Bellum, you don't know how close the enemy is to losing,
No.
right? That's fucking weird. Now, one skill you can develop is you start keeping track in your head of like, oh wait, we wiped a squad there. Let's see. Oh, they won their engagement over there, so that's another squad gone, right? Um, so you can get a sense of like, all right, am I up or am I down?
Hmm.
But you know, when your manpower gets down to 45%, you're like, oh boy, this is not looking good for us. We're about to lose, aren't we? But you don't realize, well, they're on 40% right now. So all it's going to
Yeah.
take is just, a little more effort, a little more push. We just need to hold out a little longer for those final, one or two people to bleed out. We can win this thing. So you gotta believe, right? You gotta believe it's possible.
Yeah.
That's
That's one thing.
interesting because like I've seen it a lot, and I'm not gonna not naming names or calling anybody out specifically, right? But I've definitely seen a lot of times where after the first big gunfight of the match, where both platoons slam into each other and you go from 100 down to like 70, because it happens. The platoon leader's like, oh, we're at 70%, the match is over. It's like, what? No, it's not. It just started. Like, what are you talking about? Oh, we're at 60% manpower. Like, now we got to play defensive. I mean, I guess, but do we really though? It drives me crazy that and it actually doesn't drive me crazy. It actually makes me laugh. That like so many people try to look at Bellum from like a squad player's perspective or like a meta, or a mathematics thing where it's like, oh yeah, dude, like once we get down to 60%, we're fucked. Once we get down to 50%, it's all stop. Everybody dig in. It's like, well, no, you're guaranteeing your failure at that point. But people are like so stuck in the like gamer meta mindset that like it it really makes me laugh because I'm like, dude, like we've won matches with a 4% difference. I think when the closed beta first launched, one of my matches was 3%. I think like it was that close. The numbers is just giving you an idea of how the match is going, right? It doesn't tell you what their numbers are. It doesn't tell you how their morale is, right? But the most toxic thing in the world to me is leaders that just throw in the towel, or they we talk about low morale, but nobody really talks about people with too much morale, and they get cocky, or worse, they get angry, right? Like leaders that get angry make more mistakes than leaders who got tired of getting their shit kicked in, right? Because like rage does not constitute like
it does not clear
critical
the mind
thinking.
for good thinking,
right? So like the second I hear an SL, like, oh fuck, like 1-1's not doing rah rah rah, or like the SL's like, oh 1-3, they're not doing fuck all, whatever. And it's like, you're not helping the situation any. 1-3 is getting their shit kicked in, and instead of you helping, you're bitching on Platoon Net about like why 1-3 isn't helping. And it's like, dude, like pull yourself out of your own ego long enough to like understand that like it's not about you. It's about the platoon. It's not about your squad. It's about the squad next to you too. Like, and eventually, I know what we as a Bellum community overall are going to get there. We're definitely going to start thinking more critically and not letting emotion drive our decisions. But that's just a maturing thing in life in general.
I mean, there's always going to be people who get angry, but and I mean, I've been in plenty of circumstances where it's like extremely frustrating, right? With other people's choices, with my own choices, whatever the case may be, with the situation. But it always comes back to the question of like, hey, you may be right, so what are we going to do about it? Right? Just looking forward to, okay, yes, 1-3 is going off on their own again, right? It's totally screwing us over. So what are we going to do then? Right? What needs to happen next? How can we give ourselves the best chance to win this match anyway? Or failing that, at least to have a good time, have a good fight.
Yeah, if even more, it should be shown that you shouldn't be really stressing about this so much, because again, it's a video game. You're not, real people aren't actually dying here. You're not actually losing. You're not at risk to the enemy capturing something or taking more ground or extending the conflict longer out by years. This is just Bellum. Like, you get on and play for an hour or two, and then you go off and get back to work or go to bed or whatever else you were going to do with your life. So you shouldn't have too strong of emotion on when things start going horribly wrong. Just keep working with it to the best of your ability. Another really important thing is just like, especially as any type of leader, is that whether you realize it or not, just because you're playing a video game does not mean people are not looking up to you for support or encouragement or
Yep.
thought. Because that,
Yeah.
I mean, as I told you all before, that's the reason my name has a first lieutenant in it. It just because this arbitrary rank makes people look up to you and they trust you more just because of it. And that's something that morale can really do. If you have a leader that's incredibly angry, you are likely to either be dismayed by that anger because you think it's stupid, or you'll start to become angry yourself. If you have a leader who's incredibly sad, it will bring the mood down way more than just a rifleman. And now everyone else starts to become sad. If your leader doesn't believe you can win, everyone else stops believing they can win. It When you have a leader, you have almost an exponential effect on morale. If it's just one random rifleman, like it's just a rifleman complaining that we're not going to win, what does he know? When you have
Yeah.
platoon leader walking past your squad being like, there's no way we can
we're
win this.
fucked.
We're so screwed.
Yeah.
Exactly. Whether he's really sad or really angry, like, no, everyone's going to stop and be like, oh crap, he's
We
literally
really are fucked. Yeah.
he's leading all of the squad. So even if we weren't going to lose anyway, he's commanding all the other squads to make bad decisions because he thinks we're going to lose. What's it matter what we do now? Because I'm a grenadier, and it all goes downhill, and everyone else's morale just gets shot.
Yeah. So you can have your own opinions and feelings, right? But
Uh
you can keep those to your damn self as a squad leader, and you need to project confidence, right?
huh.
You need to project whatever the squad needs from you. Uh, you need to put it out there, right?
I remember from Saving Private Ryan, gripes go up, they don't go down.
Yep. Gripe
So
up,
you
praise
should
down. Yeah.
Yep, don't gripe down or like, man, to my rifleman, like, man, the platoon leader's not doing anything that I want him to do. Like, that's not going to help
Yeah.
anything. The rifleman's going to sit there like, yeah, is you want coffee out of an MRE? Like, that's the best he's going to be able to offer you. But if you
Yeah.
think your platoon leader's doing something bad, you can gripe up to him and be like, I think you're doing a horrible job. That's what you expect in leadership if you make a bad decision, someone's probably going to complain. But your rifleman's not going to be able to help you when you complain. The platoon leader, even if he doesn't listen to you, there's at least a chance he can do something. So that's another element to morale. Don't gripe around your guys about these horrible decisions that other guys are making. I've done it before just because you feel like it and it's a game. So it's a lot more
Yeah.
relaxed. But still, that can
Yeah.
shoot the morale of your men when they're like, my squad leader, who I do trust, has no faith in the other squads. We're fighting by ourselves at this point.
I'm as guilty as anybody, man. But
Yeah.
I'm trying. It's I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Yeah, and again, it's a game, so all of us aren't taking it as seriously as like the military would or anything else like that. Like if you do complain or something, or you think your platoon leader's being kind of dumb, like technically speaking, you can do it, and there'll be very minimal effects on it because most people aren't going to be taking everything that seriously. But there is still an element that can affect it, especially about how strong you may gripe about it or how poorly your platoon leader might be doing or squad leader.
Well, the other thing, and that, so what goes hand in hand with that is that, as an SL, you should not be putting down your platoon leader if you don't like the plan he has.
Yep.
Um, you know, Cactus, you said it is that, like, you keep your opinions and your feelings to yourself. There's a time and a place to send a suggestion up the net, and there's a time not to. But there's never a time to sit here and get into your squad radio net and say, "Oh, dude, the platoon leader doesn't know what the fuck he's doing." It's like, aside from your fire team leaders, nobody else even hears the platoon net conversation, right? And it just goes back into managing morale. Is that like don't talk down because you don't like what's going on, or the platoon leader made a mistake because they got outflanked on a platoon scale.
Yeah.
Like that's not helping the situation any. Instead of bitching to your squad about it, make something happen, right? Like that's
Yeah,
another
exactly.
phrase that's just in my head from my chef is make it happen. Make it happen. Like I don't give a fuck what you have to do or why. I am putting that responsibility on you to figure it the fuck out and make it fucking happen. because if you don't, and I have to stop what I'm doing as a chef, like to come bail you out, now I'm going to be even more pissed off. And it's not just going to be a little quick coaching session and the fucking walk in. Like, now I'm going to kick your shit in because I had to pull myself away from, plating on the line, which is like the most complex station. You're putting everything that 6 other line cooks are putting at you at the same time to make sure that the tickets go out right. If I got to stop doing that because my saute guy is bitching and moaning about having to do saute, like, I'm gonna kick your shit in.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna do it in the match or during
Exactly.
service. However,
Right.
I'm gonna let you know at some point when there's a lull, you're fucking up. Like, and a lot of people, from like as a 1-7, I've done that a couple of times in Bellum. It's like, dude, like 1-3, I appreciate the fact that you're trying to take the initiative, but you keep doing the same shit over and over and over again. And then you get on the platoon net and bitch that you're down to 1 life, but you're not doing anything to change the situation, or you're not heeding any of the advice that higher leadership tells you. You can't get fucking mad about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
It
something I
goes
would.
back to it goes back to what I mentioned with the earlier episodes on platoon leadership is you can't win an argument on platoon net, right?
Yeah.
There's a time, but occasionally, you know, you do need to address something, right? You can say, like you said, send a suggestion or bring up a problem. It's like, oh, I don't like this plan because, here's what I foresee happening, right? Or like, hey, 1-3, I need you to fucking try something else, right? And either get out of my hair or uh, stop dying or whatever the fuck. But you just, as long as you just say it, you say it once, you say it with respect, and then you move on, right?
Yeah, my problem
Instead of
is
going back
that
and
like
forth.
I'll
It's
say it
any,
I'll say it a couple of
yeah,
times with respect, but like if after the 3rd time I tell you something and you're still disregarding it, I'm gonna get disrespectful as fuck. Like, and then you're gonna get
yeah,
salty about it. But at the end of the day, it's like, and that just comes from the hospitality industry. It's like I don't have time to necessarily explain to you why I need something done, right? I don't have
right.
time to tell you, the minutia of breaking contact back to the PB, right? I just expect you to understand that, like, hey, this is something that, I may not understand why, but I need to make this happen, right? And I'm guilty of it because, like, I've gotten into, I think I've only gotten into 1 argument over platoon net in the entire time in Bellum. But like, I've had a squad leader just stop communicating because I just, I said it 3 times, respectful as hell, like, hey dude, uh, you know, break contact. You're about to get overwhelmed. You got 2 squads pushing you, like, break contact, break contact. And then when he didn't, and then he's like, he comes up to me and he's like, what the fuck's going on? I'm like, I got nothing to fucking say to you, dude. Like, I told you 3 fucking times, like, and he got
Yeah.
salty because I was pissed off. And I was his 1-1 guy. Like, he was 1-2, I was 1-1. It's like, I'm not trying to like backseat squad lead for you, but I am trying to preserve the manpower and the lives that we have because that is an important aspect of Bellum.
Mhm.
Which kind of goes into my last point of an SL has to coach new players more than I think other leadership positions, even the FTL. Uh, the FTL is going to be more hands on with new players, but the SL is still going to be that guiding hand. And, I've had recently matches, where an entire fire team was new people. They played for 30 minutes or 2 matches. And it's like, okay, like, I'm not going to expect them to understand what a wedge is, or what I mean when I say get online. Like, they're not going to understand that. But I am going to coach them when they ask because that it just naturally comes out. Like, I'm not gonna think about it. I'm gonna say, "Hey, get online," and they're like, "What's that?" And I got to like 5-second breakdown in the middle of an assault up a hill what getting online means.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've all had to do that at least one time with a group of guys. So it was like, all right, let me quickly explain what an SBF is. You're going to stand there and you're just going to shoot at them and you're not going to move. Okay, everyone
Oh
who I
my
didn't tell
gosh.
you to do that, you're coming with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna have to do a lot of that as a squad leader. I mean, you don't. I should maybe phrase it this way: you're responsible for
Yes.
for explaining shit, right? If you don't have time to explain, tell somebody else to explain. um, but yeah, you're gonna have to tell those blueberries what you mean and what needs to happen in plain language.
That takes me back to my Battlefield 3 days. Holy shit. Heard that
Uh,
blueberries. Yeah, and just for sake of brevity, right? Like, I don't think any of us are complaining about having to coach new players. I actually enjoy it. Um, because I remember what my first 25 hours in squad was like. And I never want somebody to experience something like that, something like that
oh
ever
no.
again. um, but like that, and that goes into responsibility, right? Is that like your SL will make or break your first match in Milsim games. And if it breaks
Yeah.
your first match, you will never play it again. Um,
Mm,
and a lot of people don't think that way. They don't have that like mindset of like, you know,
yeah.
this guy could refund this game by the time this match ends because I was
Yeah.
a sandbagging piece of shit. Um,
Yeah.
I was withholding information. I was sandbagging
Yeah.
information because I didn't feel like it was appropriate to share it or whatever.
Or even you just had too high expectations, right? It's
That
like,
too, yeah.
yeah, yeah, any leadership role, but especially squad lead, right? You are like you are the welcome wagon. You are the you are the a lot of times the first contact people have with the game, right? And the first so and I think this goes to a larger point um, that I meant to bring up, which is that it's your biggest responsibility as a squad leader is making sure that everybody has a good time, right? Has a quality experience in the
Hmm.
game. Um, and like, fucking, sometimes you're playing strong point or whatever, and you have to freaking babysit a flagpole, and nobody's having any fun. Um, that's maybe a game design issue, but
Speak for yourself.
in any
Defense in
case,
depth is amazing. What are you talking about?
I know, I know.
That
Well,
shit
the
gets
contact will come to
wild.
you guys. They're coming. I promise.
They'll be here
But anyway,
eventually.
yeah. but but anyway, you know, uh, make sure if people are bored, like give them something to do. Make sure they're having to go get aggressive. Have to a lot of times, kind of like we were talking about, aggression is gonna um, be the right call more often than not in Vellum. So you gotta overwhelm people, uh, and especially if the enemy team is not communicating, coordinating well, just aggression is just gonna like absolutely bowl them over. Um, so anyway, uh, yeah, make sure people are having fun. Sometimes it's just like if you're in a bad spot, um, people aren't having a good time. Like, do what you can to like encourage them and make sure they're having a good time. Right? It's like, oh, we're losing the match, but at least we can have a good gunfight. Right? Like I said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this more goes back. I have a special place when it comes down to complaining because, as I like to say, whenever you do complain, you should complain like a lieutenant. Uh, the reason I say that is if you've seen like any type of movies or stuff like that, you'll see something bad happens, and if you have a lieutenant who just kind of doesn't want to, I don't know, deal with court-martialing like 30 people, they will just like word everything in a way that makes the situation go by where it sounds like everything went by really good. It's like lying without lying. It's
You know
great.
what just popped into my head?
What?
Yeah.
Fucking what was the first couple episodes of Generation Kill where the platoon was cooking coffee or whatever in their tent and it explodes and the
Some kid
lieutenant
got like
like
lit up.
the lieutenant like turned the story into like getting his dudes medals for good combinations
That's
because
exactly That's exactly what comes to mind as well. Whenever you're like, and that's only like just talking. That's making the story sound good. But you can do that too when it comes down to even complaints. Because when it comes down to complaints, you might hear from like an enlisted dude. It's like this plan sucks. I absolutely hate it. This is stupid. We're gonna get ourselves all killed. And then when you hear a lieutenant hear that from an enlisted guy, and they try talking to an officer above him, he's like, "Sir, respectfully, I believe this plan is less than optimal. I believe it's going to get a lot of us hurt and will not fully accomplish the mission. I advise that we find some other way to deal with this." It said the
Yeah.
exact same thing, but you just talk like a lieutenant. And so I think when it comes down to most complaints, people believe that complaining is getting really angry or yelling or cussing or something like that. The thing is that, yeah, that can be it, but that comes off as highly aggressive. And if the person above you is, needless to say, less than willing to deal with an aggressive person, or an aggressive person only makes them aggressive, your complaint will go out of the window immediately. It's no longer trying to take the complaint in and fix the problem. It's, you're going to be aggressive against me. I'm going to be aggressive against you. So you have to go back to your hole so I can show dominance. It's like two dogs fighting each other. And then the whole complaint gets swept under the rug because you guys are fighting each other.
and now
And
the
then you
ego's
die.
involved. Yeah.
Because you have a squad where it's like all the fire team leaders like arguing with the SL, and they're like, and they're barking back and forth, and some guy in Bravo is like, "Hey, there's a guy over that hill." Bravo FTL is still yelling at the SL.
Oh
No
my
one can
God.
hear anything over comms, and then you get into a
Worst
firefight and no one's prepared and you all die.
worst experience I ever had in Bellum as an FTL. The freaking so the squad leader, made some questionable decisions. Fair enough. Other FTLs complaining, and then over platoon, freaking another squad leader is arguing with the platoon as well. So I'm getting into both ears of complaints,
Oh,
complaints, and I'm trying to tell both of them like, shut
Shut
the
the
hell
fuck
up. I'm
up.
trying to win this
Yeah.
match. Yeah, I'm trying to communicate relevant shit so we can actually win. Okay, we're in a tough spot here. We need to focus up, people. And you're yelling in both my ears is not helping. So yeah, so try to avoid that. To go back to the coaching
yeah.
point, is try to set your people up for success. You know, grant them grace, and yeah, and offer them the best experience possible. You know, uh, just explain calmly, like, okay, here's the situation, here's what I need you to do, and let's have a good time doing this, right? Oh man, if we can move fast enough, we can get this flank going. You'll actually see the enemy, and I promise you will get to click some heads, right?
Yeah. And whenever you're dealing, that's the thing, is that if you have a complaint, I know lots of us view complaints as something being very negative, which is why it so easily gets rolled over into yelling and arguing. But a complaint is voicing your opinion and concern of something that you believe needs to be fixed. If you have a complaint and you think it needs to be
Yes.
fixed, you have to talk about it. You have to talk your way through it. You're thinking through it as the complaint goes, because maybe you didn't word the complaint correctly. Maybe there's some part of the complaint that you didn't realize was actually currently happening. So your complaint's
Yeah.
more like, why aren't we doing this? We already are. You just can't see it. What? It's
Right.
a communication. When you're complaining about something or griping, it's a communication process there. That's why, as an SL or a platoon lead, you need to not become angry and upset at the person below them, because they're obviously complaining because they don't know. There's a good chance they don't know,
Mhm.
or they see something you don't know. And that's why when you gripe up, you need to not be
Yeah.
like so angry or violent with the person above you. I mean, if you've complained to them like 3 or 4 times, I can see it, but like make sure they actually got a chance to listen and weren't dealing with 3 other people in their ear. But when you're talking
Yeah.
about, it's still communication. And when you're complaining about something or talking about something, you have to figure it out. The reason you're bringing it up is because it will likely lead to your downfall or your death or something. You can't just like yell at someone and be like, "Cool, I got all my emotions out for the week, and now I'm
Right.
sure everything will be fine." It won't be.
That makes me think of two things. One is, it's this goes back to social skills, right? But you can try to listen, right? Even if somebody's being disrespectful or they're angry or whatever, try to listen to what what is useful that they're saying, right? What are they actually trying to convey,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
right? Is it just is it, it's usually not just like I feel angry, right? Or I feel frustrated. It's like there's something that they're trying to get across, right? That maybe it's like, oh, it's not usually just like you're stupid, but like, oh, you put us in a bad position here, or we have this problem, right? And like a lot of times there's something in there that you can pick out that like, okay, I can address that, right? The other thing is, as far as de-escalation, is a lot of times, the first step, and a lot of times the only step you need in de-escalation is just saying, I hear you, right?
Mhm.
I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I acknowledge, right? And then you can say like, okay, you're frustrated with that choice, right? Or you see this problem. And if you just say that, right? A lot of times that alone will just diffuse the and calm down the emotion a little bit. It's like they're frustrated and they're angry because they didn't think you were understanding them, right? So if you're like, "Oh, I understand. I hear what you're saying." Right? Here's what we're going to do. And then, hopefully you can address the issue. Maybe it's in the past, right? And it's too late, but again, then you just focus on the future. But yeah, just, hear them out and acknowledge, right? I
Yeah,
hear you.
just as much as you have the commander's intent, you also have the grunt's intent. So whenever you hear them complain, especially like I say, whenever I gripe like a lieutenant, it's try to be always very respectful, clear, hopefully grammatically correct, all that type of stuff. But you also have how the way the grunts talk. The grunts don't talk like an officer, and there's a reason for that. They're rough around the edges. They're supposed to be. They're supposed to be sharp. Um, but the thing is that you have to be able, especially as an SL. This is especially where SLs are going to shine. They're taking the grunt's intent from all of their nicotine and energy drinks fueled bodies, and they have to somehow translate that into a way with a guy who smokes cigars and drinks coffee. Like that's inside of like a I don't know an armchair or something like that. Whatever platoon leaders have, and they
Right.
have to they have to translate all of that raw emotion and energy straight into a way that is very logical and a way that can be used.
Right.
Both people are trying to get the same objective across. It's just the way they word it or act on it might sound very different, but it's the same thing. And
Nice.
that's especially where when communication, it's not just one way. It's not just the platoon leader talking to the SL, which talks to the FTL, which talks to the grunt. It can also go grunt talks to the FTL, which talks to the SL, which then SL talks to the platoon lead. It goes both ways because you're not
Yeah.
talking at each other, you're talking to each other.
Yeah. One more thing that brings up for me also is, and to tie it back into the coaching, the newbies thing, is as middle leadership, often like part of your role is acting as a shield, right? Um, so
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
if shit's going off on platoon net, right? You need to uh, manage that, convey the relevant things to the squad, right? But you don't need to carry that energy through. Um, and similar things like you're saying, if like whatever rifleman is a grizzled vet and is like yelling at the blueberries for doing something stupid, right? Then you can step in and be like, look, here's what needs to happen, right? And just explain it calmly and and sort of diffuse the tension of like, yeah, you were doing something stupid, but we're not going to focus on that right now. We're just going to correct it and get you on the right track, without the drama, right? Um, so yeah, you can Bellum is a social game. You're playing with real human beings, right?
It
So a
really
lot of
is.
those social skills come in, especially at the middle leadership level. Uh, you're caught in the middle of a lot of different people.
And you
pulling in a
actually
lot of different
talk a whole
directions.
lot more than you think you would inside
Mhm.
of Bellum than most games. If you play Arma or Bellum and you're trying to do either one, Arma, plenty of times you jump into a server and there's plenty of people without microphones that aren't talking. You jump into Bellum, it is so incredibly rare to not have someone talking because it's such an important part of the game. It becomes, there's a social element you actually have to navigate, which, at least from my point of view, I haven't really seen it be as large of a necessity as it has been in Bellum to be socially conscious of other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that comes into like, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar, right? And a lot of times, like a good way to kind of build that baseline level of trust and gripe up effectively is to like raise something about the plan, even if it got all fucked up and everybody died, right? Find something that went
Oh, that's my
right.
favorite.
Yeah,
Compliment sandwich.
yeah, man. Like because it's like if that's going to immediately like diffuse like but most of the time it will diffuse like anyone's like bad attitude. If you like, hey man, like great job, like laying down that belt fed, like or great job, like beating your RPG guy, like amazing, like that shit went right. And then you
Yep.
can move into the coaching where it's like, okay, like although those things went right, here's what we can do to make that even more effective next time.
Yeah.
And especially if you got a salty 1.6, you might have to glaze it a little more than you normally would as an SL if you're trying to send a suggestion up the chain to higher leadership. But doing that both ways will usually net you a better positive than just like immediately like, well, that plan fucking sucked. Or hey, we have to do this better next time, and like not even, you know,
Yeah.
show that you were paying attention or you had the situational awareness enough to understand what they were doing, even though they lost that as a squad.
One of my favorite moves um, is right. If I do something stupid, I'm running out somewhere and I go down. That was recon by movement. Yeah, now you know where the enemy is.
Yeah.
There you
Shoot
go.
those guys. Shoot those guys for me. Right.
You're welcome.
And yeah, if the squad gets overwhelmed, gets in a 3-to-1 matchup, and gets wiped out, hey, that's 3 squads that were not focused on the objective. They were focused on us while the rest of the platoon maneuvered. Right. So there's always something. There's always some silver lining you can find of like, well, we did something. If nothing else, we absorbed some bullets, right?
There's always, as much as it can be horrible, there's always there can always be a good side to anything bad. Like, oh no, I accidentally snorted cocaine. Now you don't have to worry about going to bed for a little while. Like, there's always
Wow.
some there's always some element, as no, that's again extreme because I find it funny, but there is
Unless you're
legitimately
in the
always,
hospitality industry, then that's like an everyday thing.
yeah, and that's how you guys keep going, and I
that's
trust it
that's
because my
that's how
pasta
we
tastes
do
great.
16-hour.
I do
That's
have to
how we
say,
do
I wonder,
16-hour days fucking for 6 months straight and
I
make your
gotta say,
pasta
I've always
taste
wondered
good.
why why the Alfredo was always so white for the sauce. But I mean, hey,
Now you
just
know.
because I'm itching my skin and I have plenty of energy after it
Rubbing your
doesn't really mean
teeth, yeah.
anything.
Yeah, I mean,
But
look. The thing is, you came back to order that pasta next week, so
yeah, I kind of actually needed it. But but when it comes down to it all, that when you're 1 second to recoup my thoughts because we've been talking about drugs now. There's a good there's a good part of everything bad. As much as it might seem bad that 1-1 ran out into the open and kind of and absolutely got slaughtered. Bless you. As much as 1-1 just ran out into the middle of an ODA and got slaughtered by the entire enemy platoon, there is a small positive. You know where the entire enemy platoon is. So
Yep.
it sucks, but it's better than getting nothing. Because if you only focus on the fact that 1-1 is now completely dead, you'll completely miss all of the information you actually gain from it. It's a stupid way to gain information, but you can still gain information from it. What would have been far less costly is just have like a recon team patrol the wood line and see that there's like 40 dudes in it. But either way, you've gotten that key bit of information. So
If you
there's
can't, if you can't think of anything else, at least you learned the lesson, right?
yep,
You
you'll learn never run into an ODA that's 500
did learn the
meters
lesson,
long
right? You learned the
with a
lesson.
gun
You're
team
not
of
going to do the
May,
same mistake again, right?
right?
Definitely gonna make it again. Yeah, thanks for asking.
Maybe one more time. I should double check to see if it
Yeah,
really
just
doesn't
to
work.
really make
Yeah.
sure that it's the
Oh, it's
wrong
just-
choice.
It was just bad luck, sir.
Yeah,
The
I'm sure it'll
kitchen
be fine
gods
the
were
next
not
time.
smiling upon us this day. Yeah.
Probably because we're not in a kitchen, we're in a field, but that's beyond the point.
We're pushing 2 hours on this, boys. So I'm gonna say
True
let's
that.
get our final remarks in, and we'll close out the episode for tonight.
Oh,
We
Yeah,
covered a
like I
lot of
said,
good
just,
shit, boys.
Yeah, give it a try. If you're thinking about it, you know, the Bellum community is amazing. To be honest, most people, I mean, all you have to say, you hop into the squad leader role and say, hey, I'm pretty new at squad leading, so help me out, give me some tips, and I'm doing my best over here. And people will be happy to guide you. You
Yeah.
know,
the too long I skipped to the end of the podcast to see if anything important had really happened at the end is really, if you're going to do anything of SL, you have to remember that you do have a level of responsibility. You're engaging with men, and you have to complete the objective that was given to you by the platoon leader. Understand that commander's intent, but as much as you have the commander's intent, give it to those below you so that they understand your intent. You also need to understand you are the eyes and ears of the people above you. Give good communication, and as what's talked before is like push and pull information. Give that information to other people, and get information from other people so you can gain your own thing. Communicate with the other squad leaders you have. They're not it's not a negative to have them around. They're not a burden. But all of you are an asset to each other. Use them. Whenever you're having communication, it goes both ways. As much as you're talking down to the grunt, you're also listening. You have to be able to take the information around you to create a better picture. And don't yell when you complain. That would be very helpful. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, just like, we kind of touched on it with the higher leadership episode or episodes is, play as an SL first, right? But before you jump into the 1-7 or the 1-6 role, play as a squad leader for X amount of hours to get an understanding, right? And that applies to the SL and the FTL, right? Like if you're on the line between like, I want to SL, but I'm not 100% sure, play FTL a little more, right? And kind of really try to grasp, and I understand that when we get into the FTL episode, there's a lot less you're doing on the platoon net as an SL, but if you can learn to not micromanage, sorry, that's the wrong word. If you can learn to sift through the overwhelming amount of information as a fire team leader, that will make your experience as an SL that much easier because you already have access to the platoon net. You're already hearing all the craziness that goes on platoon net in some matches. You're just not interacting with it unless your SL goes down. That's really it, man. Like the more you do it, the easier it's gonna get. The more you fuck up, the more lessons you're gonna learn. So appreciate everybody coming out. Lightning, Cactus, you guys are fucking beasts. Appreciate y'all sharing your insight and your knowledge. And hopefully we can get Ketamine and Vector in here maybe in the next couple of days to get their perspective as well.
Yep.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem.
Me and us.
Yeah. I'm here.
And hopefully Justin Red will answer his freaking Discord, cough. And
let's call him out.
we can get him on the We can get him on the podcast. Yeah, I love you, mean it. Don't send your army of dudes to wreck the comment section.
Maybe a few, because some attention still attention.
Yeah,
So
right. Yep, engagement still engagement. Yeah, he said he'd chew on it. He'd get back to me on, whether this is something he wants to talk about or not. Anyway, that aside, appreciate you guys coming out tonight. Appreciate everybody listening. Whenever this does go up, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Catch.
Oh,
he
I'm
left
sorry, I
us.
hit the wrong thing. I meant to alt tab to my freaking OBS.
I'm like, he left us. He doesn't like us
Whoopsie.
anymore.
Yeah.